3 years ago, one man sat atop the mountain after a dominating campaign that ended in immortalization. Giannis Antetokounmpo was the undisputed best player in the world following the 2021 NBA Finals. Antetokounmpo concluded a 6-game tour de force with a 50-point crescendo in Game 6. He sat upon his throne, having proved undoubtedly that there wasn't a basketball player alive who was superior to him, besting the Phoenix Suns, who were led by 2 future first ballot Hall of Famers. His hike up the mountain started all the way back in Athens, Greece, where he was peddling merchandise as a street vendor with his brothers trying to support their parents. Antetokounmpo, being 7 feet in all, meant the basketball was placed in his hands early in life. In Greece, his talents would shine as he went through the process playing in the 3rd division of the Greek National Basketball League. He was selected 15th overall in the 2013 NBA Draft. As a frail 18-year-old with very little grasp on the English language, Antetokounmpo was dilatory during his ascension. His rookie year was nothing that spelled future MVP, top 75 player, hell, even all-star. At that point, his ceiling was developing into a semi-competent starter. The next 3 seasons would tremendously change the outlook on Giannis, as he showed clear appreciation season by season, notching an all-star nod, a selection on the All-NBA second team, and the MIP award in his final year of his rookie contract, which secured him a hefty extension. 2017-2018 would be his launching pad. At the age of 23, he leapt into the MVP conversation. In 2019, still at the ripe age of 24, Antetokounmpo would secure his first MVP trophy, averaging numbers that eclipsed the primes of some of the greatest big men ever. And the man wasn't even in his prime. The Greek freak nearly cleaned house at such a young age, coming second in DPOI voting. But lucky for him, he just do it again by putting together another MVP season, and this time seizing the coveted Defensive Player of the Year award. This means at the age of 25, Giannis Antetokounmpo secured his spot on the echelon of the great ones, but he still had much to prove to solidify his legacy. Around that time, Antetokounmpo and his Milwaukee Bucks faced much scrutiny regarding their playoff disappointments, losing in the conference finals to the Toronto Raptors after choking a 2-0 lead. And in 2020, they were sent packing in 5 games by the Miami Heat during their incredible bubble run. With 2 MVPs, Giannis Antetokounmpo had no championships to show for it, and people were starting to question if a guy with his playing style, with the lack of shooting and all, could even win as the number 1 option. The Greek machine was a juggernaut for the Bucks' 2021 playoff run. Let's marvel at his stats for the duration of that postseason. Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks began their championship voyage with a sweatless conquest of the exhausted Miami Heat, who were coming off the shortest offseason in NBA history following their finals run in the bubble, which meant Giannis started out the playoffs exacting revenge. They made mincemeat out of Jimmy Butler and company, with Antetokounmpo not even really exerting any effort at all. His stats are forgettable, but that's because his services weren't required, at least not at full throttle. This sweep was a team effort as the Milwaukee Bucks entered the playoffs with a dominant opening, but Giannis needed to enter a different level in their next matchup. Facing the Brooklyn Nets squad that was dubbed Scary Hours after the team paired their 2 megastars Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving with another supernova in James Harden, this was 3 of the greatest scorers in NBA history, all future first ballot Hall of Famers, I might add, brought together to create a new basketball hegemony. The Nets had an unprecedented offense with those 3 on the floor, crushing the souls of their opponents. When they were together, they were indestructible. But their crutch lied in their mortality, because as good as they were together, these dudes could not stay healthy. All 3 were present on the court at the same time only 16 times, a sighting rarer than spotting Bigfoot. And luckily for Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks, the Nets could not catch a break. Harden missed the first 4 games with hamstring concerns, while Irving played in the first 3 games of the series, in which Brooklyn took care of business, seizing a 2-1 advantage in the series, which included a 125-86 thrashing in Game 2. And going into Game 4, the Brooklyn Nets were the favorites to win the series, until disaster struck. Kyrie Irving suffered a severe right ankle sprain that would lead to him exiting the game and ending his 2021 postseason play. The Bucks would tie up the series in Game 4 following Irving's departure. James Harden would return for the next 3 games, but he was not MVP 10-time All-Star Harden because it was clear his return was rushed. All that stood in the way of Antetokounmpo, Middleton, and Holiday claiming legendary status was the Slim Reaper Kevin Durant. Durant was a lone man, but he was not a dead man, which meant he could still go out there and lay his life on the court. And boy, did he ever. The next 3 games were a demonstration of how far pushing the offensive limits of the game can reach the course of seemingly insurmountable odds. What Durant did is one of the purest displays of scoring and carrying that's ever happened. 43 points per game, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and over 2 blocks and steals on 50-35 shooting. 129 points in 3 consecutive playoff games against the best team with the best player on the planet. And he almost did it. Durant almost pulled off the unthinkable by his lonesome. If only he wore his shoes a size smaller. Of course, nothing topped Durant's performance, but Antetokounmpo balled out as well. He countered Durant's excellence with a monster series of his own. With the Brooklyn Nets slayed, the Bucks would make quick work of the Atlanta Hawks led by a young star point guard, Trae Young. The final adversary before Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks could claim gold was the Phoenix Suns. That Suns core of Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, and DeAndre Ayton was a fun team to watch during their short relevance. They had one of the most dynamic offenses in the league because of the array of talents that were present on that roster. Chris Paul ran the pick and roll with Ayton to perfection. Booker carried the scoring load as a true 2 guard solely focused on buckets. And they had great 3-and-D forwards in Bridges and Johnson. This was a team to be feared, besting the reigning champions, the Lakers, in 6 games. And the Suns' momentum carried them through the first 2 games of the 2021 NBA Finals, taking a 2-0 series lead against Milwaukee. And when all hope seemed lost for the Bucks, their general rose to the challenge, reaching a height he'd never achieved yet. The Bucks rattled off 3 straight, and the Greek Freak saved his best showcase for last with an all-time Game 6 performance that was essentially his coronation, dropping 50 points with 14 boards and 5 blocks, and most absurdly shooting 17 of 19 from the charity stripe. Giannis Antetokounmpo had reached the mountaintop. He'd conquered all that lay before him. He was hailed as the next ruler of the NBA, destined for unlimited greatness. But his meteoric rise was halted abruptly. This will not be dubbed the Giannis era so quickly. One man will not reign supreme over this NBA, because these are the days of the Titans. There's so many who have aspirations of ultimate glory. The legends of the previous decade are fading, and their shadows that were once cast mightily across the landscape are beginning to shrink. Nigh is the dawn of the new age, with fresh blood who are hungry to sit at the empty seats on the table. Since 2021, Antetokounmpo has failed to reach the grandest stage once more, losing to the Boston Celtics in a heartbreaker in 2022, where they had a strong opportunity to repeat. And these past 2 playoffs, they've been embarrassingly dismantled in the first round, with Antetokounmpo's absence due to injuries being the main reason. Milwaukee's letdowns are justifiable. Besides 2022, they've been misfortuned with their superstar getting hurt right before the playoffs in back-to-back years. But this 2024 Bucks roster is not the same team they were 3 years ago. A lot has changed since that point, and this offseason could see the departure of even more guys from that championship core. The only championship makeup this team will retain next season may be Antetokounmpo himself plus the banner on the ceiling. The Bucks will have to build themselves back up. Luckily, you have one of the top 2 players in the world who's still marching at a world-breaking pace despite the lack of recent hardware. Just look at his numbers this season. Has Giannis Antetokounmpo completed a full cycle when it comes to NBA hype, going from underrated to undeniable to overrated back to underrated? These are numbers that would quantify someone as the best player in the world. And I mean, it's not as if anyone is disputing the idea that he is one of the best in the world. The general consensus is that Joker is the best player on the planet, but after him, the majority would throw Antetokounmpo in that second spot. But for guys like Giannis, second place is first to lose when it comes to their standards. No one talks about him anymore, at least not how they did 3 years ago. And we know how the media is when it comes to hyping a player and then forgetting about him at the drop of a dime. But it's just something to think about. Is Giannis Antetokounmpo destined to be the second best player in the world? Has his peak surpassed him? Will the Greek Freak finish as an incredible player who was once on track to be the greatest ever? Is time running out? I'll leave you with an anecdote from the Roman general Julius Caesar. As a young man, Caesar visited the Temple of Hercules, where he introspectively gazed upon a statue of Alexander the Great. At that point, Caesar was the same age as Alexander when he'd conquered the world. Caesar felt reverence for Alexander's accomplishments, but also sorrow, knowing he'd done nothing noteworthy at that point in his life. The unsettlement of his realization made him accelerate his endeavors in climbing the political hierarchy. Giannis Antetokounmpo is 29 years old. His prime is far from over, and becoming one of the top 75 NBA players before you turn 30 is making the most of your allocated time. Let's not forget, this was the age Michael Jordan was when he won his first championship. Don't hand a man a silver medal when he's still in the race. Thanks for watching.